Welcome to today's session where we are going to resume the short story A Rose for Emily by William Faulkner. In the previous session, as we discussed, that how William Faulkner has exemplified the life of this aristocratic lady, Miss Emily Grierson, at the backdrop of the post Civil War South. And the segment first ended at the point when Miss Emily just arrogantly refuted to the governess for paying any sort of tax, as she found that she was privileged enough and she was not accountable to pay any tax. She was still living in her time frame of old aristocratic period. And the segment second is going to start, and in the very starting we come to know about her one more victory, as Faulkner is mentioning that as she had vanquished their fathers 30 years before about the smell. So here we have a leap, a jump back in time 30 years before. As one by one we should decode it, that here is a jump back in time 30 years before, from the point when she was refusing to pay the taxes to the newer generation governance. From that point 30 years before, there was an incident about the smell. It was an episode of a pungent bad smell coming from the house of Emily, the mansion in which Emily resides. And it was this incident, so 30 years before, about the smell. So we are now in that time frame. Segment first was where segment first was ended. From that point we are now back 30 years before in time, when this there is an episode of smell emanating from the house of Emily. And there is one more time indicator, 2 years after her father's death. And it was the time, the smell episode was the time after this episode occurred after the 2 years of her father's death. So these are the time indications which we need to keep record, because at the very last segment we will find the significance of all these clues uh, scattered in the whole short story. Well, so now I hope that you got the idea of time, that it is 30 years before. The time is 30 years before where we left the story in the first segment. And the smell was so pungent, it was so bad in odor, that one of the women of the town complained to the mayor. The mayor was Judge Stevens, and I tell you that this Judge Stevens also represent the old generation. And how he tackled the situation, that is very interesting. Judge Stevens, when he was told that there is very much bad smell is emanated from the house of Emily, then rather than going and talking straight to Emily, he just dealt it with in a very roundabout manner, because he thought that it is just like a humiliation to an aristocratic lady to talk about a smell emanating from her house. What he did, he sent a group of men to the place where Miss Emily's home, and for investigation, and ordered to sprinkle lime in order to neutralize the bad odor which was coming from her house, and in order to disinfect that. So it was the order given by Judge Stevens. And again we have a glance of the still intact, that aristocratic influence, how it was still succeeded in remaining in exerting its influence. After a week or two the smell went away, and then this smell episode uh, was completed as the smell went away, and everything was done. And the townsfolk was also not you can notify that townsfolk were not bothered about the source of the smell. They just smell went away and they just forgot about it. And now there is an one more uh, event when people started to feel sorry for her, and it was on the account of her single status. As I'm reading the line, the Griersons held themselves a little too high for what they really were. So here we can see the ambivalent, the double standard, double sided attitude of the people for the aristocratic culture and society. Griersons represent here aristocratic society, and at one place they were regarding these ideals so high, and at the second place, now here the people are blaming Griersons for thinking about themselves so high. None of the young men were quite good enough for Miss Emily and such. So here there is a mention that Miss Emily is at 30, in 30 years old lady who is still single, and it is due to their pompous and their haughty pride in themselves, because there is a mention that Emily's father, Mr. Grierson, drove off all the possible suitors who showed romantic interest in Miss Emily when she was in her prime age, when she was very young, and he used to reject all the suitors on account of their status, that Mr. Grierson used to think that nobody is eligible enough, or nobody is meeting the high standards what they had. So this is the opinion of the public, that the Griersons held themselves too high, and that's why Miss Emily is still not married. And here we can see the conservative attitude of the society, of the townsfolk of 19th century, who are so much concerned about a lady on account of her single status, and they think that it is okay to pass judgments if anybody is especially of aristocratic lady, and here, and if any women, we can see here a role of patriarchy or the gender trouble, that people were so much interested in the spinsterhood of Emily, that they used to continuously talk about it, and they were feeling pity for her because she was still single at the age of 30. So it is a conservative attitude of the 19th century society in South America. She got to be 30 and was still single. And one more very horrific episode or detail about Emily is being given here in the segment second only. When her father died, so it is said that when her father died, then she refused to accept the death. She refused to accept the reality that her father has got dead. So it also again shows her denial of reality, and she used to continuously living in her own world, which she found comfortable and convenient for her. And here she told them that her father was not dead, and it is said that it was after much coercion and persuasion she left the dead body of her father after 3 days for the further burial process. Then, so here we can see that Emily is going to show some symptoms of abnormality, but here we don't find, as the townsfolk are sharing their views, that we did not say she was crazy then. In the proceedings we can find some such symptoms of abnormality, but now note, we believed she had to do that. We remembered all the young men her father had driven away. So here we have discussed about it, that how her spinsterhood, how her father's behavior, and all, they found it to be responsible for her single status. And in the third segment, she was sick for a long time. Here at the very outset we find the mention of her sickness, and it was the time after her father's death. Just after her father's death, she remained sick for a long time. And then there is a introduction of a new character, Homer Barron. He is a Yankee. Yankee is addressed to a North American. So Homer Barron is a new character, and is very interesting character, and he becomes at once important for us due to her association with Miss Emily. He's as he is introduced by the narrator, a big, dark, ready man with a big voice and eyes lighter than his face. The little boys would follow in groups to hear him cuss the riggers and the riggers, singing in time to the rise and fall of pigs. Pretty soon he knew everybody in town. Whenever you heard a lot of laughing anywhere about the square, Homer Barron would be in the center of the group. So we can see that he is so sociable, and due to her gregarious nature, he has got a good recognition, and all were fond of him. He is such a personality we can see just in the opposite of Emily, who is so reclusive and eccentric, and who is so invisible and not audible. And on the contrary, Homer Barron is much visible and audible to everyone. Presently, we began to see him and Miss Emily on Sunday afternoons driving in the yellow wheeled buggy and the matched team of bays from the livery stable. So, here there is an important information we have got that Emily has shown her interest in Homer Barron. And though she got sick, and she was reclusive and eccentric, but here we find that she is trying to come over the situation, and she is behaving a little normal. But here there is a clash there of old and newer generation again, because the society was so much concerned about her, that they found this her courting to someone beneath her status very odd. They found that though Homer Barron is good enough, a good man, and they found him interesting, but they were not ready to accept him as an alliance, as to their aristocratic culture or heritage, as so it is also showing that the South American people were not yet ready to sacrifice their traditions, and Emily is the part of their tradition, and they were not in the favor. And in the further uh, proceedings, you will find that they are not ready for this alliance, and they scandalize this issue. And what they did, they start gossiping, and they even wrote to the female cousins of Emily in Alabama to prevent her from engaging with someone who is not at par with her, who is not equal to her status. So he was a northerner, and they used to address Emily as a poor Emily, because they found that in anyhow uh, they they should prevent her, and she should not violate the social norms, their so-called honor of their culture and rigid social custom. So this was the attitude of the people, and here we can see one contrast, that they were embracing a North Yankee. South Americans were, after the Civil War, South Americans were ready to embrace a North American. They were ready to rebuild their relationship with the Northern, but still they were not ready to such an extent that they will have an alliance, a wedding alliance, um, a marital alliance with someone who belonged to a northerner, and that to a poor northerner, a laborer, not poor, a laborer northerner. As and I must tell you that Homer Barron has come to this South America. Jefferson, why he has come? There was a contract of paving the sidewalks, and for that contract he was leading the workers, and for that purpose he has come here. And At once Emily started showing her interest in this particular person, and which thwarted, or which by which whole town became upset. And there is one more interesting episode in which Emily is seen as buying poison, arsenic, and the druggist who was selling it, he showed his apprehension. He was apprehensive about that why she wants poison or arsenic, but she didn't want to give any explanation, and she just stared at him. And here again we find a demonstration of an aristocratic impact that when she stared at the druggist, though he was unwilling to give her poison, but due to her aristocratic status, he just unwillingly packed the poison and dispatched it to her home, labeled as for rats. And in the fourth segment, again, there are so many speculations about this particular lady, Emily Grierson, and there is a great guesswork by the people. They are so much intervening in her life. They are so much interested in her life. Some were saying she will kill herself, as she was being seen as she was being seen buying the arsenic. And there were many speculations, she will kill herself, she will marry him. And some were saying that Homer and Emily are going to marry, and she will persuade him yet. And this line, she will persuade him yet, there is a mention, I must tell you, that Homer Barron was not a marrying man, uh, in the sense that he was more interested in men than women. He was homosexual. So here, one more identity we come to know about Homer Barron, and on that account, people were speculating that she will anyhow persuade him. And some of the ladies, it was a disgrace. As I told you, that it was a matter of their prestige. Emily was their prestige, and anyhow they wanted to prevent her from engaging with someone who is not of her status. And they did many attempts, as I told you. They wrote to the cousins, and they visited Emily to prevent her. But after the departure of the cousins, again Homer Barron came back to the South America, to Jefferson again. And that was the last we saw of Homer Barron. And when he came back after the 3 days, people saw Homer Barron entering Emily's home. And after that, for almost 6 months, she did not appear, and she too did not appear after that. And then people assumed that Homer Barron had abandoned Emily for forever, because Homer Barron was not seen again after this glance, after this glimpse of him entering to the home, entering to Emily's home. When we next saw Miss Emily, she had grown fat and her hair was turning grey. So it is a description of physical appearance of Miss Emily, that she is getting old, and up to the day of her death at 74. So there is a clear description that Emily died at the age of 74. And then again there were many orders, many newer generations. The governors, authorities were trying their best to exact taxes, or claiming taxes or money from Miss Emily, and she was continued to be in the denying posture or denying mode. Each December we sent her a tax notice, which would be returned by the post office a week later unclaimed. She had evidently shut up the top floor of the house. So this information is very crucial, that she has sealed, she has shut up the top floor, and she has shut up herself. She has just she has locked herself in the top floor of the house, and she died in one of the downstairs rooms. And there is an abrupt ending in section 4, that she just died in one of the downstairs room, and in a heavy walnut bed with the curtain, her grey head propped on a pillow, yellow and moldy with age and lack of sunlight. So it is the information of her demise. And along with her decaying state, there is a mention of yellow, moldy furniture, walnut bed with a curtain. This shows by extension the decaying of old generation. Her mansion, both are decaying, and the old values, ideals and institutions are also crumbling down. So these all things are indications by Faulkner about the decaying old values. Now Now in segment 5 there is as I told you that there all the secrets of after her death, all the secrets about Miss Emily are torn apart, and the veil is going to remove now, because the upstairs room is constantly an object of curiosity for the people. And after her death, what happened? Already we knew that there was one room in that region above stairs which no one had seen in 40 years, and which would have to be forced. They waited until Miss Emily was decently in the ground before they opened it. So here there is a mention that all the townsfolk waited patiently. So here I want to point out that we have started the story now from where we began. We began this story from the demise of Miss Emily, and now from that onward, now the time has taken leap forward. Now this is a forward leap after the funeral of Miss Emily. What they did, the room, upstairs room, which was constantly in the eye of all the townsfolk, they used force to open it. And what they found, it was an interesting and horrific detail at the same time. The man himself lay in the bed. Actually, when they opened the door, it was full of dust. It was like a tomb. And they found it at the same time. There was a macabre, along with this macabre scenery of the room, it was also given a once a time. There were curtains and many things. It was giving a look of bridal chamber, and a man was lying on the bed. Actually, it was a corpse in the advanced stage of decay, as it was just a skeleton, we can say, and it was a skeleton of Homer Baron. So this mystery is resolved at the last segment, and all the episodes are now becoming relevant at this moment. The smell episode, Emily's disappearance, Homer's disappearance. So that's why I told you that we will tie all the strands together at the last. The man himself lay in the bed, and at the last, then we noticed that in the second pillow was the indentation of a head. And they found that along with the corpse there was a pillow, and the pillow had an indentation. There was a mark on the pillow, and on the pillow they also found the strand of hair, and that was in iron gray hair, long strand, and that was of Emily. And it was a clear clue that Emily used to lie beside the corpse. Now we can figure it out that Emily murdered Homer Baron. And we can uh, imagine the stifled and repressed mental condition of Emily, that how stifled she was, that she had to murder the man whom she wanted to keep with her, because of the pressure she was facing from the societal pressure. And there were many things in this story we have found, which are responsible for the deterioration, for such deterioration of this lady, this aristocratic lady, who used to cherish many privileges and powers in once in the past. And now, in order to control her life, in order to live life on her own terms, she chose this bizarre way of or this, we can say, this is a perversion, this pervert attitude she adapted in order to create her own world, in order to materialize or manifest what she thinks for her. So this is what we can take out. But at the last point at the last point, I want to clear that this story has many connotations, this story has many themes we can take out. There is tradition versus progress, there is patriarchy and control, its control, and gossips and social conventions and many themes we can take out. As many time we read it, we can take, and I encourage you to read it and take out, come up with your own interpretations. And one more thing, that how the story turns out to be. At first it was looking that it is a social, the context is just socio historical, and now we also find a personal touch, an individual touch, a psychological flair in this story. So there are many dimensions of this one short story, and that's why it is one of the iconic work by William Faulkner. Thank you for your attention.